So I saw the list of companies that were recently delisted by the Corporate Affairs Commission as a result of default in the payment of annual returns. I got a lot of questions from my clients, especially my clients that were affected, and some other persons as to the importance of annual returns and what it really means. Some people mistake annual returns for taxes. And I want you to know that annual returns are not taxes. And that is why we have a lot of mix up, because people will say they have paid their taxes and so they don't need to pay annual returns. I want to tell you today that the fact that you have paid your taxes does not mean that you shouldn't pay annual returns. Annual returns are paid to the commission, while taxes are paid to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. That's if it's for federal taxes, or the IRS for the state. So depending on the kind of taxes, they have entities that receive taxes, and they also have an entity, that's the Corporate Affairs Commission, that receive annual returns. Now, annual returns are compulsory statutory obligation. So I would say that annual returns is a corporate compliance obligation and not tax. Of course, we've established that annual returns are not taxes. And it's a requirement that every registered entity with the Corporate Affairs Commission be meant to pay a yearly stipend to the commission as an indication that that entity is still a going concern. Now, what I mean is that if your company or your business that you registered with the commission is still alive, like you are still doing business with that entity, there is a requirement that you are to pay a yearly stipend as stipulated by the commission and contained in the Companies and Allied Matters Act. Section 421 sub 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act makes annual returns a compulsory payment for every registered entity. I know why I'm emphasizing on every, because some people feel that if their entity is non-profit making, or if it's a sole proprietorship, they are not required to make returns to the commission. Now, this is not the case. By virtue of section 421 sub 1 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2020, every entity that is registered, whether for profit making or non-profit making, as far as your details are with the commission, you are required to make returns every year to the commission so that your records with the commission would be updated from time to time. The commission should know that you are still in business. In fact, that's just the summary of what annual returns is. The moment you stop paying annual returns, you are invariably telling the commission that we are no longer in business. Shut down this company. Strike off the name of this company from your list. And CAC will be left with no other choice but to strike out the name of your company from the list of companies that are registered with them. Now, before I go into the implication of the striking out or the delisting that just happened, I just showed you a clip of the news of the delisting. You can also go to the CAC website. You will see the list of companies that have been delisted by the commission. I'd like to state that there are penalties for default payments. Before now, default fees for late filing of annual returns were fixed depending on the nature of the company or the entity, registered entity. Depending on the nature of the registered entity, default fees for late payment of annual returns were fixed. Now, recently, CAC decided to implement Section 425 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. And that section provides that default fees should now be chargeable on not just the companies, but its officers, like its shareholders and directors. This means that, for example, most of my clients that I'm actually filing annual returns for now, they are used to paying me a certain fee because of the kind of business, the kind of entity they registered, whether it's a small ltd, or a plc, or an incorporated trustee. They used to have fixed fees. But right now, I don't give anybody any fixed fee. I have to go back to the portal to check how much the commission is now charging on not just the companies, but on their various officers, that is their shareholders or their directors. So you can now see that the penalty for late filing of annual returns is now grave. Like it's now more expensive. Let me put it that way. And it's now more tedious. So there is every need for you to pay now. There is every need for you to start paying the annual returns for your company now for this year. And usually, for new companies, your annual returns are paid 18 months after your first AGM, that's annual general meeting. And for other companies, we usually late filing is usually after June 30th. So, and this payment is done yearly. And trust me, it's not much. It's just a stipend compared to having to face the risk of losing your company and losing your goodwill, losing your hard work, losing the monies in your account.